DLC is such a fucking minefield. Not all DLC is created equal, and more often than not, it seems to represent either the pinnacle or the absolute worst elements of modern gaming. It's usually either an amazing expansion created to give something extra to fans of a game that has sold better than expected, sometimes being better than the main game itself, or it's a pre-planned selection of way overpriced cosmetics or items or some other dumb shit that releases alongside or soon after the actual game's release, which would have absolutely been included with the game as sold 15 years ago. DLC has been around for a while in the form of expansions, but one of the focal points at the start of this microtransaction mess is absolutely Oblivion's horse armour. In 2006, you could pay $2.50 in real money to get some pretty average looking armour which would double the health of your horse. Obviously, the entire thing was a tactic to test the waters of how much you could get people to pay for a single item in a game, and the backlash at the time was so widespread, people are using it as an example in YouTube videos to this day. But people actually bought it, and in doing so, they exclaimed to the world that it was perfectly fine to charge so much for such a stupid fucking item. Fucking horse armour. DLC is so fucked up that it's not even consistent across companies. Bethesda released that stupid fucking horse armour, and they're still the first company I ever wanted to buy DLC from. I absolutely hammered Fallout 3 when it came out, and it was my favourite game for so long. I did everything you could do, and looked up everything, and wanted desperately to experience Operation Anchorage and get the Gauss rifle. I wanted broken steel so I could wear Colonel Autumn's coat for more than 3 seconds, and I wanted all those crazy space guns. I didn't get it until years later, when I bought the Game of the Year edition on PC, but I still loved it, and I just can't believe that it's from the same people that sold fucking horse armour. It was a similar tale with Skyrim. I finally played the Dragonborn DLC last October after wanting it for 8 years, but I didn't ever buy the DLC directly. It's the same for most of the DLC I play. Unless it's from software, I don't really buy games at launch, and so I usually end up experiencing their DLC through a Game of the Year edition. I loved playing the Left Behind DLC and would have bought it at the time, but I feel like most of the time I'm not sure the extra little things in the complete versions are worth the money. Interestingly enough, the first DLC I ever downloaded was the Old Hunters for Bloodborne, and if I may be so bold, I'm going to proclaim it to be the greatest piece of gaming ever made. I can't believe how much enjoyment I got for my 15 quid. It's absolutely my favourite game of all time, and I was PvPing every day to begin with, so buying the DLC was an absolute no-brainer. Not only does it contain the most bonkers weapons, the most fashionable hats, and the most insane areas, it also has by far the best bosses in the game and arguably some of the best bosses ever made. The quality is just so consistent, and every single part of the DLC fucking blew my mind. Expanding on the story by going back in time and having us fight the head of the church and the doll, and seeing Ludwig, who I'd read all about and thought about how badass he was, and being able to play through brand new and amazing Bloodborne content with the context and understanding of its relationship to the main game through hours of thinking about the lore, but it's entirely new shit, but I know who these people are and what they mean as soon as I meet them. Holy shit, it's like going back in time and fighting Jesus or some other guy you've heard all about and never met. Fuck, it's just so good. From Software on the whole are renowned for their totally bonkers DLC, especially travelling in time. Artorias is essentially Ludwig version 1, and must have blown people's minds just as much when it first came out. Frida, Medea and Gale are also fucking awesome, and they're a wonderful, painful experience I'll never forget. From Software are so well known for their DLC, everyone was thinking the exact same thing when Sekiro came out. Use a bell to travel back in time and fight Tomoe, Junichiro's master. Tomoe was made out to be fucking badass in the game, and exactly like Ludwig and Artorias, she would be the perfect candidate for a DLC, and the time travel system was already in the game. I thought it even though I played through blind, and I was completely expecting it to happen. In my opinion, From Software represent the perfect way to do DLC, but my experience with DLC is so often so far from that. Where people were up in arms about the horse armour, stupidly priced DLC extras have slowly wormed their way since then to become the norm. Microtransactions and ridiculous collector's editions are seen as the main method for monetizing superfans, aka whales, into dropping hundreds if not thousands of pounds on virtual items. I had a lot of fun playing GTA Online, but they are making an insane amount of money from microtransactions in that game. The most expensive vehicle in the game, the Buckingham Luxor Deluxe Jet, cost $10 million in-game, which is a real-world equivalent of over £80. The saddest part of all of this is that they're making so much money in GTA Online that it gives them no reason at all to make the next Grand Theft Auto game. Sure, Dragon Ball FighterZ looks amazing, but there are 43 characters, with 19 of them being paid DLC, and rather than having a decent variety, 12 of the 43 are just Goku or Vegeta. At £4 a fighter, it would cost another £76 to unlock them all individually, on top of the price you paid for the game. I suppose a new fighter does add a decent amount, but it's such a letdown when all my past experiences of fighting games have had you just unlock the rest of the roster through gameplay rather than cash. It just makes the process of getting all the fighters boring. Paying extra when you've already bought a game is bullshit, but I think one of the most interesting areas to be brought about by microtransactions is free-to-play games. They're terrible in the sense that they're designed to encourage whales to spend insane amounts of money buying every single item in the game, but they're great in the sense that if you're responsible and sensible, you can get the exact same game as the people that spend hundreds for basically nothing. I've spent hundreds of hours playing Fortnite and Warzone with my friends in the past, and I've spent less than 30 quid combined over both of them. If I wanted to play any other multiplayer game with them that wasn't free to play, I'd be lucky if I spent less than that on one game, and even then, chances are, they'd be filled with microtransactions anyway. Free to play is great for me, but I still think it's really shitty that these games are designed to exploit addictive tendencies in the young and vulnerable, and it's those big spenders that are allowing me to experience these games for almost nothing. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that DLC is a total mixed bag. Sometimes it represents the absolute best gaming has to offer, but mostly it just seems like a cheap and easy way to get players to spend money on cosmetics and items that feel like they should be in the game as standard. It really feels like a lot of developers, even ones that make amazing games, are just taking the piss with DLC. It's been a slippery slope since that fucking horse armour, and I miss the days when you bought a complete and finished product on day one in a game shop. But at the same time, I love that truly good developers can offer genuinely amazing expansions to their games to players through DLC, and bring more excellent experiences to their fans without having to create a whole new game from scratch. If I had to choose between the old hunters and removing microtransactions from Call of Duty, I'd say a hunter must hunt. Thank you to From Software once again for not only making amazing games but refusing to partake in the shitty business practices of the rest of the industry. Thank you to the horse armour for pretty much ruining video games forever, and thank you for watching. Cheers.